Check 1 2, check 1 2. Let me know if you can hear me okay coming through. I think we're live finally. This is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network. Today is Friday, March 8th, 2019, and yeah, this is the first time I've been live in going on 6 weeks now. The last time we checked in was early January, and I just wanted to take a few moments to check in with you guys to let you know about what I've been up to on the road, what I've been working on, and what I have coming up. So if you can hear me okay, give me yeah, cool. You guys can hear me. Awesome. Great. So it's the beginning of March. I left Houston February 1st to head to Mexico for Acapulco, for Acapulco. You guys have heard me talk a little bit about that recently. And then I went to Costa Rica for Envision Festival, and I've been putting out some videos from that. I've still got a few more videos coming out over the coming weeks, both my talk from Envision as well as just some more live footage and some footage from the Punta Mona off-grid community farm that you guys have heard me talk about and seen me do a few videos on by now. So yeah, it's been 5 weeks, beautiful, awesome, amazing weeks. A little bit stressful being on the road. My little rat buddy, my little rat baby, Freddie, he passed away while we were on the road. So that was stressful dealing with that. And then dealing with the stress of trying to be a part of Acapulco. And if you guys have seen my video on that, then you kind of know where I stand on all that situation. And yeah, so in addition to just being on the road every day, for as beautiful as it is to travel and to see the world, it's also can be a little stressful. You know, you're constantly moving from one place to the next. You're settling for a couple days and you're seeing different places. There's ups and downs just like anything, right? Here I am kind of complaining a little bit about traveling through Mexico and Costa Rica, right? How many of you wouldn't love to do that? But overall, it was a beautiful time. It was just another opportunity to connect to myself. Me and Miriam got to go see Xochicalco, which was some of the ruins, some more of the pyramids in Mexico, just outside of Cuernavaca, a little bit outside of Mexico City. And, you know, we're just learning more about these various ruins and pyramids to try to reconnect to our ancestry and just connect to humanity in general, right? And also just meeting all kinds of great people. And at Acapulco and Envision, besides the BS drama around it, I did meet all kinds of great people who are interested in helping with my work and helping collaborate and partner together and sharing my message and sharing my books and sharing the documentary. And yeah, so I'm really excited about that. Overall, just so much to look forward to. I've got a notebook around here somewhere filled with my projects for the next coming months. And what I find is, and I've talked to you guys about this before, is that like the reason I do tours and the reason I do public speaking is because not only is it a great opportunity to get beyond just the digital world and to connect to people face to face, but it like is fuel to me, because sometimes I get stuck in this bubble right here of just living in my little office and working on video content and, you know, working on new ideas, and which I love. But I also get so detached sometimes from connecting to people every day because I haven't had so much time to cultivate community here in Houston. I went from living in a community house, working with the Houston Freethinkers activist community and partnering with all kinds of other groups for the last 6-7 years, to that just sort of dissolving and people going in different directions. So that was a big change. And getting to be on the road and visit places like Punta Mona, this permaculture farm and community center, and just get re-inspired for what I want to do. And if you've been following this channel, you guys know that I've been talking about forming an intentional community since 2016. Originally, I was planning on doing this in Texas, and I've since now planned to leave the United States by the end of this year. And I've opened myself up to working with all kinds of different people. And so I literally have an email folder right now that's just filled with emails from various people who are interested in working together on establishing an intentional community built around the principles of self-ownership, mindfulness, and permaculture and regenerative practices of how we grow our food and interact with the planet. And so I've got people who range from individuals who've got finances available and they just need somebody to invest with, or folks who maybe are older and say, hey, I got a lot of knowledge, but I'm not going to be out there tilling the garden every day, so I need to partner with some younger people. And then I've got other people who have no money, who are more like me, who have like little to no money, but have a lot of knowledge or resources or skills to share. And so if you're interested, if you're one of those people who are interested, whether in the United States or anywhere else in the world, I'm willing to talk to you and partner with you. So check out my email. It's intothe_light@protonmail.com. I'll type that in the YouTube chat, intothe_light@protonmail.com. And then also you can just reach out, Derrick@theconsciousresistance.com. Whatever's easier, they go to the same place. And my plan is sometime this month, we're going to host an international conference call, much like I've done with the Freedom Cells. And I want to basically connect with people who want to, I just want to hear the different ideas, because as I said, I've met so many different people in Acapulco and people who said, hey, come to live with me in BC. I've got land in Canada. Come over here to Australia. I've got land over here. Come to Tennessee. Come to Costa Rica. Come to, various other countries and places where people either have land already established or where they are very interested in building something. So there's a lot of opportunities, and I don't know exactly where I'm going to end up. I'm just opening the door, my intentions out there to the universe, and trusting and knowing that where I'm supposed to be and who I'm supposed to work with will end up happening anyways. And it may end up just being me and my partner just living alone. I don't know, because it's kind of a scary thing to really imagine living with some of you guys. Some of you are complete strangers and others who've been following my work for a long time. And it's even a little bit more scary to work with people who I'm friends with, because if the proper considerations are not taken, then friendships can be destroyed, businesses can be destroyed, communities can be destroyed. And so that's why in my books, specifically in Manifesto of the Free Humans, I've talked about the importance of a community having nonviolent communication, and the various mindfulness practices worked and integrated into the way the community interacts and deals with each other, so that we can try to limit any sort of fallout. I heard from Stephen Brooks, who I've got a couple interviews with him here on this channel now, saying that, intentional communities don't fall apart because they have an abundance of water, or because they have more fruit trees than they can handle, or because, the land and the soil is so rich. No, they fall apart because humans don't know how to interact, and because of miscommunication, lack of communication, mistrust, just general falling out, leading to great opportunities and potential getting screwed over and falling apart. And this has happened throughout humanity's history and all different areas of our life. So I want to avoid that as much as possible. And so I'm not sure exactly where I'll end up, and I'm not exactly sure where or who I'll work with. But the point of this conference call, if you're interested, and this is going to happen in the next 2 weeks, I'll do another video talking specifically about this when I get the date set up. We're going to do a Zoom call. Anybody can get in on the call, but I would like to have, I'll share my vision of what I'm looking for and kind of what I have available. And I want to hear the other people say, hey, this is where I'm at. I have some land in this country, or I've got some money, or I'm ready to invest, or just to see where everybody's at. And perhaps I won't necessarily work with every single person on the call, but maybe new connections can be found between the individuals who are joining. And we can just further bridge those gaps and help build the Freedom Cell Network and the parallel counter economy to the state as we work towards creating a world that is much more free and ethical and just than the world that we're currently living in, and can be done in a voluntary, lead by example type of way, not a top-down, centralized, statist way. So if you're interested in that, email me at intothe_light@protonmail.com and Derrick@theconsciousresistance.com. I'll check out some of the comments here. Excuse me, guys, I kind of got a cold. I've been fighting a cold since getting back, so my nose is a little runny tonight. Most of my friends love American business structure. Well, as much as I have issues with America in a lot of ways compared to other nations, you can still be an entrepreneur. You can still actually try to find a way to create entrepreneurial freedom, and at least financially, and maybe use that to create freedom in other ways. Thanks for all you do. It's really appreciated. I have to pop out and pop up a heap of cutting and take oodles more, so I'll check this chat out later. Shout out to all my friends in Australia. It seems like there's a bunch of you lately. You need the right sort of humans to be with, good hearts and have integrity. Exactly. I'm hoping me and my Romanian girlfriend can make it out of the centralized state. I hope so too, man. I hope that Bammer, I hope that you can get out of there. I hope all of us can get out of the places that we feel restricted in. Is there a perfect country on this planet? Is there a perfect place to raise your children, to try to create more freedom and to escape the state? Obviously not, because states currently have a monopoly on the way we live our very lives, down to the time that we use and the calendar that we use. So it's kind of difficult, but I do think that the best we can hope for, especially as we move towards the 5G, Internet of Things, smart grid kind of world, is to start to establish decentralized communities that are off the grid. And what I mean by that is off the centralized status grid. So you're not dependent on the grocery stores. You're not dependent on the state. You're not dependent on these external institutions for your food, for your water, for your very livelihood. And we start to create independence from those systems. So that's what I mean when I say off grid. It doesn't really just relate to not being on the electric grid, which is a part of it, but just being off of the status centralized grid in corporate grid in general, right? That's what I aim for, and I want to work with as many of you who have those kind of goals. Excuse me, guys, I really got to blow my nose. I muted it. Hope that helped. What's up, brother? Are you coming back to Vegas on your next tour? What's up, Joey? You are definitely one of the cities that we have in mind, man. I'll talk about that now. Thanks, Joey, since you asked that question. So you may have noticed recently I put out a video called Where and How to Hear Me Talk in 2019. So if you go to theconsciousresistance.com/tour, I've put up a new page where you can find all of my speaking events. I had Anarchapulco, I had Envision. I'll be speaking at Lucidity in California next month, Paleo FX in Austin, Texas. A few other places coming up. It's all in that list. Be Empowered by my friend Kenny in Colorado. I'll be at the Jackalope Freedom Festival. I might be at a few others that people have reached out to me about. But I'm also planning to do another tour, much, much smaller. I went from the 2017 Decentralize Your Life tour for 40-something cities, and then the Decentralize Your Life tour in 2018, or excuse me, the Liberate Your Mind tour for 53 cities. And now we're going to do I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. I want your guys' ideas on what we should call this tour. Think about this. We talked about decentralizing your life. So that's kind of like a big picture, like different ways to unplug from various systems, education, food, government, corporations, etc. And the next one was about liberating your mind. So I talked all about what I call the pyramid of power, the big picture thing. If you haven't taken a big scope of seeing the world and seeing how much control exists so that you understand why it's important to decentralize and to opt out from these systems. So we talked about decentralizing your life, liberating your mind. What is it left to say? What is there left to say in this, scope of things? I feel like this is probably going to be my last U.S. tour. If I don't want to say forever, I don't like saying forever, but at least for a couple of years, because I'm moving more and more again towards this organizing a community, trying to live an intentional community, whether in the United States or elsewhere, more than likely elsewhere. And so I'm just not going to have the time to be dedicating all my resources to traveling and to speaking in this ways. I still want to do all the great things, but yeah, this will more than likely be my last U.S. tour, at least for a couple of years. And I'm focusing on 20 to 25 cities. And if you want to be considered to be one of these cities in the U.S., we might go into Canada this year because we've had a few people ask about Canada over the years. And another thing is I really, really would like to make it to Australia. I know folks from Adelaide, from Melbourne, from Perth, and I know you guys are pretty spread out over there, but I want to come out there. I mean, and I got to barely go into Europe last year. I think there might be more opportunities for that and more opportunities for Central and South America. But again, I'm trying to balance my efforts to spread these ideas and to spread this message and spread my work. And that takes time, money, energy, flying and traveling. And I'm starting to weigh the options of, is my time better spent at home, being able to spread the message digitally? Because, there's ups and downs to both, right? Basically, the benefit of doing videos is I could sit here in my office here in my apartment and make a video, and if it just hits right, it might go mega viral like the 5G one and get 650,000 views, and all I did was go to city council and then edit up a short video. Or I can go out into the real world, so to speak, and I can connect with groups of 5 to 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 plus people in face-to-face eye contact, looking at each other, connecting human to human. And I'm telling you, nothing can replace that. So that's why I enjoy being out there. And I started earlier saying that doing these events, it kind of helps reignite my fire and keeps me from getting depressed from just being here in this bubble, doing this kind of work, spreading information, spreading ideas, journalistic work, philosophical work. For me, it requires all of these actions. Is I need to be able to spread information and expose things to people, make the face-to-face connections, because what I'm trying to do here is bigger than just being a YouTuber. It's I realize this with some of the Anarchapulco drama stuff, is that like like I said in that video, I was never getting into this. I never woke up and got interested in activism or journalism because I wanted to be a part of the Cool Kids Club and make sure that I was invited to, you know, the big conferences and all these kinds of things. I didn't even know this existed, and I guess we kind of created it. It didn't exist before. But at the end of the day, I'm in this to change the world. And so when I'm getting invited to speak at Acapulco or speak at Envision and speak in California and speak at these beautiful places, I'm going to just keep emphasizing and hammering down the point that what really matters is what we do when we go home. So Envision Festival was 4 beautiful days in the jungle of Costa Rica, and it ended just this past Sunday. Now here we are 4 or 5 days later, and people are back home. You know, I'm back here in the States. Some people went back to the States. Other people went back to Europe, Australia, all through Central and South America. I mean, truly from all around the world. And at Acapulco, I met people from Australia, from India, from Germany, from Sweden. I mean, just so many different connections, right? But at the end of the day, if each of those beautiful, powerful people who are capable of so much, if they go home after listening to these great talks and doing these workshops and taking ayahuasca or just connecting to the jungle and nature and whatever their experiences were, meeting new minds and new hearts, if they go home and just go back to the same old thing, well, then nothing is going to change. And we should just admit that we like having events that we created a new counterculture, right? Many of us out there feel like we're the black sheep of our family because we're the weird ones who question normalcy and question what's going in the world, and that can make us feel isolated and feel alone, where we're, you know, the only one in our family who's questioning these things. And so you start to feel isolated. And then through the internet, we basically realized that there were so many of us out there. We used Facebook and social media to connect to each other, and basically we're able to start plugging into each other and spreading a message and building movements and building websites and building content and all this beauty. And then what? Now we start creating our own festivals, our own conferences, and organizing our own events. So it's become a full-on subculture, from just being different people who are seeking truth, seeking liberty, seeking freedom from government, freedom from corporations, seeking to live sustainably and regeneratively. I mean, there's a lot of sub-communities in there. You got the psychedelic community, the spiritual community, the anarchist community, the libertarian community, the just truth community, conspiracy community. There's so many different kind of subgroups that make up this larger truth-seeking community. So now that we've started to create our own events and organize our own affairs and maybe even start our own communities, we have to ask ourselves, what happens now? Because again, if people just go to these events, which are wonderful and beautiful, and have these great times, but then they go back home, and as of today, Friday night, 4 days after the festivals have ended, 3 weeks after Acapulco has ended, if the people are already back to doing the same old thing, well then the whole thing is just a big circle jerk. The whole thing is just to pat us on the back. Let's all feel good about being the celebrity activists who get up, put on stage on a pedestal, and people worship us and idolize us and just repeat the same old dogma and the same old BS that I know that I was trying to get away from in the mainstream corporate deadstream world. You see a lot of the same issues being replicated and recreated, and you see the people putting people on a pedestal and authority worship. That's what it comes down to. You know, you think because somebody's a good YouTuber, you should stop thinking for yourself and just blindly trust them because they tell you something. I mean, this is why I basically am trying to be as transparent as possible when it comes to my documentaries. I think you guys know that you can trust my work, but I also put the transcript and resources. When it comes to me talking openly about things about Acapulco and things people feel like I should keep quiet and private, people that you know, people that you watch on YouTube and that you trust and care about, tell me that we should keep it quiet because it's going to hurt the movement or because it's going to create drama and things like that. I mean, just know that I'm going to be about transparency no matter what, because as I said, I didn't get into this to be liked, to be accepted, to become a part of the Cool Kids Club. I'm thankful to have met and connected with all of you guys, but if we're not actually actively working towards building a better world and getting away from centralized systems that empower these individuals that do not have the same goals as us, that they disempower the people and empower the other side, then I don't know what we're doing. You know, is this making any sense here? You guys getting what I'm talking about? So yeah, I'm going to be doing a tour. I will still be doing YouTube videos and doing that, but I plan to do it a lot less. Sorry, I'm wiping my face so much. I'm like sniffly. But one of the reasons I plan to do a lot less videos in 2019, I mean, I say that now, but who knows, right? I'm kind of addicted to this. I don't know if I could ever really stop because I love interacting with you guys. I mean, this is the only reason I still have this channel. I'm no longer using Facebook, no longer using Twitter, Instagram, and some people think I'm crazy and that my work's not going to grow, but instead I'm seeing my subscribership triple, and I know we're going to hit 100,000 subscribers before the end of this year, if not, you know, soon. I don't know when, but I know that we can hit that mark. That's my goal, 100,000 and maybe beyond this year. Not because I care about the silly number, but because I care about reaching new minds and new people, and I'm so grateful for you guys for helping me get there. So I will continue to do YouTube content. However, one of the things that I'm really focusing on is music. And this may sound kind of weird to you guys, but you know, before I ever got into any of this, got into activism and journalism back in 2010, I've always been a musician. I've been a promoter here in Houston. I've organized festivals. I've organized, you know, benefit shows, house shows, bike rides, community garden events, all kinds of things. And I love doing it, but I also love to perform. And now that I've realized over the years that my word through writing and through speaking is another form of my art, and that I get to, you know, I have this ability to just take big ideas and condense them down and speak to different crowds of people, you know, people in the jungle, people at Acapulco, people at suit and tie events, Green Party, Libertarian Party, anarchists, high school kids, college kids, retirees, what have you. I can speak this message and find a way to get them interested and to hear me and to see me as a person rather than as an ideology or a dogma. And so I recognize that this is part of my art, and I'm getting to do these speaking tours. But there's also a part of me that feels like I'm missing something. I'm a musician, and I've been involved with music for, well, since I was a little kid, honestly. I've always played like metal, kind of hardcore music, and done vocals. I'm a vocalist, so I like do screamy, growly stuff. And more as I'm getting more comfortable, I've just been experimenting with singing because it's fun to me. You know, I often tell people that because of the first 20 to 21 years of my life being involved with depression and suicide and in prison, that I feel like I didn't start really becoming awake and aware till I was like 24, 25. So I'm 34 now. I kind of feel like I'm 8 or 9 years old because of that. Like I just started to wake up and rediscover all the great things about life. And in the past few years, I realized like I like to dance, you know, I like to dance. It's fun. I like to sing. I'm getting more comfortable with my voice and trying to bring that and share that with you guys. So in my ideal world, I would be able to do a tour that includes both performing music and speaking, and also hosting meditations and being able to do all of that together, because you know, and it's going to be totally different. I can't necessarily say it's going to be conscious music, like, you know, it's going to be all about the government or about waking up and things like that. There, you know, there's a lot of music like that, and I'm sure that would bleed in there no matter what I do. I'm currently in a band called Spectrum, and we're about to start recording, and I do the vocals for them, and I'm really excited to share that with you guys once that comes out. But I'm also working on a hip-hop project, and I need a producer. I know some of you guys out there make beats, can help me grow this concept, take these ideas I have in my mind and put it into reality. And if you want to help with me on that, then reach out to me, because I definitely am looking for people to seriously work together. Like, this is my big goal, besides to continue to work on the documentaries, which we're going to talk about in a moment, is to make music. I've got the band project, but I've got this song that needs to come out. I love hip-hop and different styles of hip-hop, and you know, I've realized that I can flow a little bit, and I've got some poetry to share with you guys that's going to share a little bit about my struggle through depression, through the crazy life that I've lived. And you know, I feel like the songs I write are a little bit about like the darkness in the world, but like there's still hope, you know what I mean? So I don't know if this is interesting to any of you guys, because it's not about my journalism or my documentaries or whatever, but I'm just kind of checking in with you guys and letting you know where I'm at, and like, you know, what I'm trying to do in my life, because, you know, I want to continue to grow as a journalist. I'm going to keep exposing crimes here in Houston as long as I'm in Houston. I'm going to keep exposing crimes like Jeffrey Epstein and the Finders, but I've also got to feed my soul. And you know, my soul loves to just collaborate and to make and create, and that's what I'm really stoked on this year, more than anything, more than like any journalism, more than any speaking. I'm hoping that by the end of this year I will be able to release to you guys some like awesome music that's just been waiting to get out of me. And you know, it's going to be like some, like I said, some pretty hard-hitting hip-hop stuff. Some of it will be conscious, some of it, I mean, it's all going to be conscious, but it's not necessarily going to be about the government and things like that. And then I've got this metal, kind of progressive metal band called Spectrum. So I'm going to be spending a lot more time on music. And then halfway through the year, I plan to move into my RV. Me and Miriam will move into the RV and start traveling the country and just getting settled in the RV once we get it fixed and repaired and livable the way we want it to be. And I want to build a little studio in there so that I could sit down and record videos like this with you guys and record music, and just, yeah, that's my plan, because again, I want to just keep feeding my soul so that as I dig through some of these crazier things, I still have the joy, you know, because sometimes it's so easy to get sucked into the darkness and that craziness that we forget why we got involved. At least I know I tend to forget why I got involved, because it can get so heavy. Oh yeah, so I'm gonna catch up on these comments. You look thinner and really tuned up. Well, thank you, I appreciate that. I feel alone. Yeah, you're not alone. I know you feel alone out there, Stacy, and you know, I'm sure in Australia you guys are pretty like scattered out there, but I know that at the end of the day you're not alone in this, because so many of us out here, no matter where we're at in this planet, are fighting for many of the same things. And I don't know what it's going to take, but I do believe that there's hope. Lots of cool support. Preach truth. Please don't stop. Most humans are conscientiously sleeping. Yeah, unfortunately. I'll be wearing your shirt in one of my rap videos. What's up, Meta? Check, you know, let me know, man. I want to check out your music, and I'm definitely trying to collaborate with anybody. I've got a bunch of lyrics. I got a bunch of different ideas. Derrick, I started out as a musician. I was still trying to find my real calling. I think it's along the same line, but more internet related. Can't wait to see what you do. I was thinking you have a rhythm with words. Thank you. I appreciate that. Can't wait to hear some of your music. Anybody who wants to collaborate, hit me up with at DerrickTheConsciousResistance.com or IntoTheLight@ProtonMail.com. Derrick, great interview with Jason. Thank you. I appreciate that. That was a fun interview. All right. Any other things? Burning Man, how do you cope when you're feeling really bad? Okay, yeah, this is a Q&A too. I'm just kind of ranting and catching you guys up with what I've been up to on the last 5 weeks on the road. I've tried to keep content coming out even while I'm traveling through Mexico and Costa Rica. It's not always convenient, but I try to make that possible. But mainly I'm here just to answer your questions. If you have any questions about the videos I've put out over the last 5 weeks, you can scroll through the video list and let me know if you have any more deep questions. We're going to talk about the finders in just a second. How do you cope when you're feeling really bad? I've been asked this question a lot over the years, and the way that I cope, if you want to think about it that way, is basically by, I mean, and I don't know that this is a perfect answer, it's just my answer, that like I put so much of my energy and time into this lifestyle. To me, it's not just about being an activist as a hobby, but this is just the way I live my life and who I'm trying to be as I better myself and learn more about myself, like exposing the darkness, trying to reveal the darkness in myself and heal from all that. I stay like balanced because I'm so connected to all these amazing people all over the world that I've got to meet by putting my all into this. You know, I put out a video the other day you guys might have seen called "How Are You Designing Your Life?" And I was talking about how I'm not wealthy by any means, but I'm able to travel and I'm able to meet and connect with so many other people who are out there who are not just financially motivated, not just self-gain motivated, but are out there thinking of how to solve the world's problems. And, you know, from big to small, from local to international to global. And when I do feel the darkness and feel heavy from all the crap going on in the world, I stop and I remember that there are so many people out there doing positive things. And I see the things that I'm doing and the kind of fire that I put into my work, and I see so many other people who are doing the same thing, and I take inspiration from them. So if you don't feel inspired by your own actions, then perhaps it's time to change that, because you should be one of the most inspiring people to yourself. Like, you should look at yourself in the mirror and see what you're up to and just be amazed, be enthralled, be like, holy crap, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing that. Like, I'm out there accomplishing these things. I'm stepping up to the plate. I'm working on myself. I'm empowering other people. Because, you know, when you start to work on these things for yourself, whether we're talking the spiritual, emotional healing, or just making change in your community, I mean, think about this. Like, you take a couple hours of your day to go to city council to talk about 5G or whatever issue bothers you, and you put that video online. Maybe that takes an hour or 2 hours out of your day. You throw it up online, and then it goes viral. I'm describing what happened to me with my first 5G video back in October. And that whole interaction, it didn't cost me any money. It cost me about an hour's worth of a bike ride, so some sweat, ride 20, 25 minutes there, chill for a couple hours, so a couple hours worth of time, ride back, come here, edit it in about 15, 20 minutes, upload it on YouTube, and that's it. So a couple hours of time, some sweat, you know, and that's it. And through that, I've got so many connections from so many people who've reached out to me from all over the US, all over the world, who say, hey, help me work with you on 5G. Would you want to do an interview? I want to share your video. Different things, different ways, right? And that just comes from taking action, from literally just saying, rather than just sitting on my ass all day today and just getting high or being lazy, I'm going to get up and ride downtown. I'm going to go make an effort. Even if I'm nervous, even if it's uncomfortable, even if I don't have the right things to wear, because you guys may have noticed in that video, I get a lot of shit for wearing shorts and, you know, wearing a t-shirt, because people think that you should go in there in a suit and tie and worship the city council or whatever. But my point is that just by taking that action and trying to do something rather than doing nothing, that goes on and has so many ripples. Now that video is at 650,000 plus, different people have not only reached out to me, they say that, you know, I'm inspired by this guy. Oh, I didn't realize this was happening in Houston, things like that, right? So the actions lead to outcomes. And again, if you do nothing, then nothing's going to happen. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on this, is like, I know that I'm doing everything I possibly can to help the world. And even on the days when I can't, because you do have to take time for self-care, to take care of yourself and be able to just relax and actually, again, stop and enjoy the world. Remember what you're fighting for. But I do so when I stop and have those days and it's like, we're just going to go out and take a bike ride and enjoy the beauty. I'm not going to worry about making a video today. I'm not going to worry about making an article today or how many YouTube videos I got. I'm just going to go enjoy the beautiful world that's out here and around me, and not worry about what you guys are up to, because I can catch up with you guys another day. When I have those moments, it just gives me more fuel to come back, more ideas flow into my head. And I have a list of videos right now that I'm working on to share with you guys. And yeah, I mean, it's just, that's how I stay going. I keep myself inspired by inspiring myself and by watching other great people do good things. Excuse me. Got like a lot of stuff coming out of me today. Music is speaking in tongues in a divided world. Be great to hear your music. I'll share it as soon as I get to that point. And again, anybody who wants to collaborate, Anomaly sent me here. Oh, that's interesting. One of these days, if you guys have connection with Anomaly, reach out to him. Let's connect with him. I would like to do a debate with him, because people often say that I look like him or that he looks like me or vice versa. I've had a few people mistake me for him. And I think maybe he's out there doing some good work, but overall, I think he's doing harm, because he's out there promoting himself as this like spiritual hip hop kind of guy that's like waking people up, and he's reaching a lot of people. But at the same time, he's promoting the idea that Donald Trump's a good guy, and that, you know, that there's this whole plan behind the scenes. It's just, you know, I know that some of you guys out there believe in the QAnon things, and we're not going to get into that. I think I've done enough on that. But my point is that I do think there's a level where you have to say, like, all right, somebody's doing more harm than good. You know, maybe they're doing good in some ways, but ultimately, if you're leading people to believe that somebody else, aliens, QAnon, Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders, Obama, Hillary Clinton, AOC, any politician, or even, dare I say it, God is going to come save the day, I think you're disempowering people. And that's just my take. I know some of you are going to disagree. Personally, I feel as though without young men like you and Anomaly, this country doesn't stand a chance. Well, I appreciate that. If you could, personally, I like your just don't give a fuck fashion. I'm the same way. Hey, Derek, please let us know how you feel about QAnon if you can, please. Sorry if I spelled your name wrong. As I said, I've done 2 videos in the past on QAnon. You can find those if you go to our videos and search. I won't rehash too much of that, other than just to repeat what I just said, that anybody, David Wilcock, Benjamin Fulford, QAnon, anybody out there who's telling you to trust their secret inside sources and doesn't provide you any kind of evidence for the things they say, I would be very, very skeptical of their claims. Now, what I try to do, say, for example, with the Finders, is to take, you know, these really crazy topics that most people, the average person, let's say, quote unquote, a normie or something like that, would hear and would just run away because, oh, that sounds like some of that Pizzagate crazy conspiracy, whatever. And so they don't want to hear it. So what I try to do is take those big claims and those crazy stories and take them out of the realm of conspiracy, and I mean, they're a conspiracy one way or the other, but out of theory and into more of a true crime kind of realm. That's basically what I've done with the Finders and with some of the new documentaries that I'm working on, is I'm trying to move more into the area of true crime. So this looks like something somebody might watch on TV, and perhaps it's about a conspiracy, but it's not starting off telling people that it's a conspiracy. So whenever you guys see, I've noticed some of you guys out there comment on some of my videos, like you guys think I don't get the full picture. You're like, oh, he's talking about 5G, but he doesn't get that it's really a mind control, brain frying, this or that system. And whether or not I believe that, that's not where you start. I've said this before, right? And the same thing, when I write about geoengineering, I mean, for one, stop using the word chemtrails. It's the science of geoengineering. and they're lying to us saying that they're not doing it already. But when I write articles about it, I don't write articles saying they're trying to kill you with chemtrails or they're trying to kill you with geoengineering. I write from this very questioning, kind of skeptical mindset, and I provide studies and I provide documentation. It's a way to create a picture and paint a picture for the viewer to draw their own conclusions. Now, if you've already read and researched this, then of course you're going to see this and be like, okay, yeah, they're doing this, you know, they're lying about it, etc. But I just noticed that some of you guys like think that I don't quite get the picture, when actually it's more that I'm being very deliberate with the way I present my information, because my audience is not you. Like, you guys are already here, and I'm thankful that you guys keep coming back. But my audience is your next door neighbor who thinks that we're crazy. My audience is your kid's teacher who thinks that they're delusional because they're starting to question things like vaccines. Or, you know, my audience is not necessarily you who are already kind of awake and aware to these things. I'm glad you guys see it and you find the information useful and you share it and all those things. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to reach new people, not necessarily you guys. I want you to keep coming back, so don't take that personally. I just mean that I'm really trying to work towards educating others who haven't quite gone down these rabbit holes, and to make them feel safe, like it's not a scary thing to dig into these topics. Stacy says, your immune system needs strengthening. Yes, it does. I've been working on that recently. Get into fermented foods like sauerkraut and kombucha. I just finished drinking a kombucha, so you'll be proud of me. The world I live in is amazing. If you don't like your surroundings, change your mentality. I agree. The world I live in is amazing, but that doesn't mean that there aren't also really fucked up, crazy things going on in the world. Like, I live in a really beautiful life that I've manifested and created around me, but that doesn't stop the wars from happening. It doesn't stop the fact that Donald Trump is no longer going to be counting drone killings now of civilians, that they're going to get rid of that through an executive order, and now there will be no way for us to track how many people are dying every year. I mean, those things are still taking place. And this is why I try to balance the spiritual and the 3D world. Because if you're only in the spiritual world and you're floating up in the clouds and thinking that meditating all day is going to fix things, or that, you know, all you have to do is just channel information from aliens or from angels or from light bodies or from whatever, then you're not grounded. You're just floating all the time. But if you're so grounded and rooted here in the physical realm that you're completely dead to your spiritual nature and to your spiritual self and your emotional healing and all that trauma and the healing process that needs to take place, well, then you're missing out a big part of the kind of experience as well. So we need a full holistic, you know, remember I talked about holistic activism, holistic anarchism. We need a holistic perspective. I've only seen the Houston City Council vid. I subscribe because of it. I plan to check out the rest of your vids. Thank you for standing up from us. I'm from Pearland, south of Houston. Hey, D's nuts, if you're here in Houston, while I'm mentioning the 5G thing, if you're in Houston, and I'll put another video about this in a couple days, we're doing our first meeting for Houstonians concerned with 5G. It's a group that we started. It's going to be next Thursday night at 6 p.m. at Midtown Bar and Grill here in the downtown area at West Gray. Look up Houstonians concerned with 5G. There's a group of people on Facebook who are helping out with that. And I'll be doing a video this week to kind of remind you guys, because I know some of you did subscribe because of that video, and I appreciate that. And if you haven't noticed, we do have a 5G playlist. You can go there, and it's all about the security and health concerns about 5G. Observing is more objective. Eat a lot of plant foods. That's all I eat is plant foods, so thank you. You have to appeal to the sheep. You're going about it the right way. I'm here to stay, brother. Thank you, guys. Hit the like button. You're doing good. Thank you, guys. Why isn't Israel going to have 5G? Hey, if you want to send me some links on the whole Israel 5G thing, go for it. Because as I did with some of my past videos, I'm going to take some of these claims that I hear from you guys often, and I'm going to try to either disprove it or prove it. Like, for example, everybody kept telling me, oh, well, Donald Trump banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago. That's because he was trying to stop the pedophilia, because he was coming out against Epstein before everybody. And if you've watched the video, I investigated that claim, and I'm not quite sure that's very accurate, right? We've also looked into just other claims, other areas, like, is Epstein an agent of the Israel, of the Mossad? So now people often say, hey, that when 5G came out, a bunch of birds fell down and died, and that Israel is one of the places that are going to be free from 5G. These are claims that I want to prove or disprove, because, again, we have to be strong messengers of the truth. If you're out there spreading bad information, spreading shitty videos like on certain channels that I won't mention, that ask you to trust them and don't provide any documentation, you're only adding to the disinformation, misinformation pile. You're not actually helping if you just spew more BS out there. So be able to think critically, to step outside of your boxes, and to, you know, use the trivium, and to use your own logic, and to fact check things. And I have another video coming out called How Do You Do Research #2. I've put out #1, and we'll be doing some more of those to show you guys more of my kind of behind the scenes view of how I do my research. I really like the way you think. Thank you guys. What's up, H-Town? Qualcomm claims to have 5G. So how do we break the old structure and replace it with something sustainable and rewarding without violence? Will we be here in the next 50 years? Not the elders, you know. We will be here. Government is government, not actually for the people. Strive to maintain our self-determination and well-being. That is one way to fight the system. Orville's got an awesome question. How do we break the old structure and replace it with something sustainable and rewarding? So, and then I'm going to get to Robert's question because it's a really important issue. So I don't know that I would use the language necessarily that you chose as far as breaking the old structure and replacing it with something sustainable, because for one, I don't want to overthrow the kings and then just replace them with somebody new, you know, me or somebody else like that. I want to help people evolve to the point where they realize that they don't need other people to rule over them, that we are each free, powerful, beautiful, capable people, and we are able to organize our lives and our own affairs as long as we respect the other individual's right to do the same. So we don't initiate force, violence, or harm on other people, whether or not we agree or disagree with their life decisions. We can have healthy debates and discussions. We can agree to disagree, but initiating force and violence is just wrong. So what I promote, some of you may be familiar with, if not, I ask you to go search on the YouTube channel or the website, is called Agorism and Counter-Economics. I'm typing that in the chat right now, and I'm actually working on a brand new book that's all about counter-economics, and I've explored this in videos and in my past books, but this next book is just going to be called straight up Counter-Economics, and it talks about taking your money, your time, your energy away from the state, the corporations, and these centralized systems, and exiting, finding ways to avoid paying taxes, finding ways to, you know, take some money out of the state's hands where it's going to fund drone bombings and forced vaccinations and surveillance and whatever else, you know, you might not be about, and taking those resources and reintegrating them into something new. So yes, we want to replace it with something new, but not in the sense of let's overthrow the bad guys so that we become the new good guys and eventually become the bad guys. Instead, rather than trying to vote them out, rather than trying to violently, you know, uprise, let's just compete with them directly. Let's build something better. Whether it's scholar, warrior, healer, intentional communities, I kind of like the way that sounds, or just different forms of living, because in a true decentralized world, there's going to be all types of ways of people living. Just like hundreds of years ago, it was unfathomable to believe that Christians and Muslims and Jews could all live amongst each other in various, you know, parts of the world. Now that is fairly regular in a lot of the world. It's just kind of commonplace that you have a mix of various religions and traditions. Now imagine if that took place when it came to governance, where some people might still choose to live under the United States government and have whatever benefits they get from that, but the rest of us would no longer be forced to be subjugated under that, and we could create new systems that can compete directly with that state. Now, of course, this is what I think is a generational change. This is not going to happen tomorrow. That is why it is important for us to think about the 7 generations in our actions and how we're building the future, because the change isn't going to come overnight and it's not going to come fast. So we're told all you have to do is press this button and vote for this one individual and they're going to fix everything. Vote for this president, this prime minister, this whatever. Or let's just violently overthrow them. That'll be quick and we'll just force our way on them and then we'll just kill all the counter-revolutionaries until we get our way, right? Obviously, both of those strategies are filled with flaws. The third way, the middle path, is counter-economics. So we build and build outside of the system as much as possible. And we use that strength and that financial strength and encourage more and more people to become entrepreneurs in the gray and the black markets outside of the state's control systems and to create the new grid. And I've built a website called freedomcells.com, which is available for you guys. If you haven't heard about it, please do check it out. It's constantly growing. If you haven't checked it in a while, give it another look, because every time I go speak publicly, freedomcells.org, I tell people about it and we get more people to sign up for it, right? And yes, it is true that the economy is so controlled. And I think this is going to be maybe even worse than what we've seen. Part of Counter Economics, my upcoming book, which will be out at the end of this month or sometime in April, is asking how does one be an agorist, a counter economist in the age of social credit, of constant surveillance, of facial recognition? You know, think about this. if we have cryptocurrencies that allow us to do business outside the state's hands, what happens once the state creates their own state-run cryptocurrency that uses the blockchain to track everything you do, and then combined with a facial recognition database and a social credit score, they can start penalizing you. We're already seeing this happen in China, where more than 100 million people were denied the right to fly out of their own home country, and where people are now being penalized in various ways, like not getting loans, not being able to rent in certain areas, and just so many different ways. How are we going to be able to live outside of the system if the system controls everything and has their eyes and ears everywhere? We're moving right into 1984 Brave New World territory very fast, as we have been for decades. So we do have to counter the technocratic enslavement, and that's a big part of it. I do think it's going to become more difficult, but let's imagine this. If tomorrow the government, wherever you're living in the world, announced that it is now completely illegal, you will be penalized, you'll be thrown in jail if you use anything other than the state's currency. So that meant, like, let's imagine they said, hey, we're going all digital. We're going to have the national ID card, like the real ID card here in the United States that's coming in the next year or two. In case you didn't know that, you're about to have a federal national ID card, and you're going to need that in order to be able to fly out of this country. You're going to have to submit to facial recognition technology in order to fly out of the U.S. We're moving very closely towards China, Australia, you guys are right behind it. The UK, mostly Western nations, the Five Eyes nations are all on the same path towards this totalitarian, technocratic smart grid, right? 5G, the Internet of Things, all this kind of stuff. So what happens if tomorrow the state announced that using cash was illegal, using cryptocurrency was illegal, using anything alternative other than your state national ID card, which now you have to use it to get into all buildings, you have to use it to buy your groceries, you have to use it to do everything, where they create a new way of society. Now, we're either going to have everybody out of fear blindly submit and go along with it, or those of us, like you, are going to say, enough is enough. We're going to form new communities, counter-economic communities. And in our community, we're not going to use 5G. We're not going to use the Internet of Things. We're not going to use Wi-Fi, or we're not going to use the RFID chips, or we're not going to use the national ID card. It's going to take that. It's going to take individuals being willing to stand that. So I want to ask this question to you guys, and I'm going to look at the responses. Would you be willing to opt out of that system? You know, the census, for example, years ago, I remember there was a lot of people making a big deal about the census, not wanting to tell the government how many people live in their house, because ultimately it's your privacy that you should have the right to, keep it private if you want. But let's imagine that situation came about, whether you trust crypto or not. Let's imagine that they said all alternative currencies outside of the state's national ID card and RFID chip were now illegal, and that you could be penalized. And that if you associated with people who didn't use these tools, you would be penalized. Your social credit score would go down. Now, would you allow that penalty and that attack on your well-being? Where, think about this: next time you and your family go to the grocery store, part of your penalty is they say, "Hey, excuse me, sir, your credit score went down. Your family can only get two loaves of bread this week, or you can only get one steak this week," or things like that, right? They start trying to hurt you in these different ways, because that's the way they'll do it, is they'll put pressure on the people and make it very difficult for us to survive without their system. That's what they want, at least. And they probably will win if we wait, if we sit around and do nothing. This is why it's important to, again, think of the 7 generations, think generationally. Start using freedomcells.org to build local, decentralized cells of people who are getting off the grid and learning how to take care of their own water, their own food, learning how to take care of their own health, learning how to take care of their own self-defense, learning how to uplift and build each other, and to practice nonviolent communication, and to practice mindfulness, and to practice counter-economics. If we start laying the foundation for that, then when we get to the social credit score in the next couple of years, because it's coming fast, if you haven't noticed, then we can say, you know what? Lock us out. Block us out of that society. We don't need you anymore. We can run our own lives. We can organize without you. And we're going to end up with 2 split sectors of society. And if not, if you guys, and all of us, if we cower out of fear and we say, okay, I guess I'll just accept the national ID card now, it's going to be too late. So we have a test coming up in the next couple years. Are people going to be willing to opt out of this technology as it takes over all of our life using artificial intelligence, facial recognition, Internet of Things, 5G, and blockchain? Now, there's plus sides of these technologies, of course, but in the hands of the governments and the corporations, it's all about control. It's all about getting into your life and taking away freedom. So, I mean, I really want to know, guys, like, what's your plan? Do you have a plan? Have you thought about this? Have you and your family talked about it? Have you and your close friends? Do you have anybody you can work with on this? If not, now's the time to start doing it. I'm going to look at some of the comments. All governments are slavery, master of self, slave to none. I'm sick of supporting war. Me too. Would love to meet you and Miriam in person. We'll come to Australia soon. I promise we're going to make it there. Governments are corporations, ran by them anyways. Thanks to the Illegal Patriot Act. Are you going to take the mark? I don't trust crypto. If Israel can get its holy land, natives can get their holy lands. I'm ready. I would. Australia just banned David Icke from coming here. Opt out of the USA and go to native tribes. Look, even the native tribes, though, are being screwed over. And really, in some of our native communities, and I can only speak for the ones that I have experience with, there are natives who don't really practice their own traditional ways. They've become Christian, or they've become modernized, living like the American lifestyle. They're not necessarily healthier than the average American in some ways. And so, there are sort of two sides to the way that people look at indigenous folks. It's either like, oh, they're primitive savage, which is obviously just stupid and just incorrect. It's a collectivization of a group of people. But the other side is this sort of the noble savage myth, where people create this caricature in their mind of natives who are like just standing there with an eagle soaring over them, and their hair is blowing in their wind, and they've got a sweat lodge behind them, and they're just constantly in this spiritual place. And most of the natives that I know are just regular people who they do keep these traditions alive, but they're not like something out of a movie or a cartoon, right? So my point is that even in some native communities, they've sold out to things like 5G and sold out to, just giving away their own resources and giving away their own communities because of money, because of various things like that. Iowa uses facial recognition for driver's license. It's coming everywhere. Everybody has to accept the facial recognition for the real ID by 2021. I would. My husband wouldn't. So what would you do then if your husband's like, you're crazy, I'm not going to go, I'm going to get this ID card, I'm going to get this RFID chip? I mean, is that going to cause a rift in your family, or what do you do? I'm asking, like, curiously. We need to have cohesion with the native tribes. I agree. The change is going to have to start within, of course, always. Open source civilization. Let's live violent in augmented reality and virtual reality, Opt out. Robert Caputo says opt out. Empower native tribes. We need to get our very own island. Yeah, sometimes people think like we need to get our own island and run away. But even then, again, some of the same problems pop up. Steak is violence, not freedom. I agree with you. I was just giving an example. I'm personally a vegan. Robert Caputo is going to start homesteading. That's the answers. Growing fruit trees in the backyard. These are answers. These are the ideas that we need. Sourcing water might become problematic. It's definitely going to be problematic. And this is also a spiritual war. I agree with you, 88 Timekeeper 88. But as I said earlier, just because it's a spiritual war doesn't mean you ignore the physical or ignore your physical body. It's, the Creator gave us these spiritual selves and the physical body so that we could come here and do something with it. If we sit around and just think that, well, it's a spiritual war, so I don't have to worry about the physical, I just worry about the spirit, I think we're only selling ourselves short. It's got to be a holistic view, taking everything into account. Religious people and patriots will blindly submit to the government. I moved from Houston 7 years ago because I could not take it anymore. I now live in Central Texas. Yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of people who submit, no matter what religion or what tradition you are. I'm very interested in your Indian friend, what he says. Could you do a video about his wisdom? We might do a video at some point with Gray Eagle. He's Choctaw from Hugo, Oklahoma. I like James Corbett's idea of communicating with neighbors. Absolutely. Use nextdoor.com. Find ways to talk to neighbors, not to cops, and build. Agorism is the biggest threat to the state. Absolutely. That's why they locked up Ross Ulbricht. And in the courtroom, when I was there reporting, the judge said that his philosophy was a threat to the state and that she had to lock him up for 3 life sentences to make sure that nobody would dare take up his flag. And what she meant by that is that nobody would dare directly compete with the state and show people that they don't need the government or the Federal Reserve or any of these kinds of systems. And that's what they're scared of more. They're not afraid of you going and voting for Donald Trump or going and voting for and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or who else is running now? All these different people. You know what I mean? Like, they're not afraid of that. They're also not afraid of you going and setting some car on fire or throwing a brick through a window. They're afraid of you saying, you know what? I'm not going to play the game anymore. Because when we're born and we come into this world, they have this board game in front of us, and they basically say anything on this board is acceptable as long as you play by the rules within here. You can do this, you can do this, you can do this, but you can't step outside of those bounds. And the whole idea with agorism and opting out in counter economics is to say, you know what? I'm not going to play the game. We stand up, we throw the board over, and we play our own game. We build something better instead of playing by their rules. Religion is most definitely a control system. I agree. What do you think about the universal basic income, or specifically Andrew Yang? I know about UBI. I don't know about Andrew Yang. Feel free to send me any links. I think UBI done in a voluntary way, which I don't know how the funding would take place, is an interesting idea. But I still ultimately believe that that if we're taking from individuals by force, via forced involuntary taxation, even if it's going to the betterment of society, it's still force, it's still violence. We have to move past that. I want to have all relationships that are voluntary relationships. And as it stands, the state is a involuntary relationship that is invasive and interfering with my life. And I want to create something better. 3 books to recommend from I Am Charlie. I recommend my 3 books, the Conscious Resistance Trilogy, which you can find right here. I'll send you the link. If you haven't checked out our work, all of it is available to download for free. I've also got physical copies that I can mail off to you guys. If you're interested, please don't buy them from Amazon. And we've got lots of shirts and all that kind of stuff if you guys want to learn more about my work specifically, because I'm just going to plug my own work. I think that's a good place to start. Trump is helping us replace the old structure. I would highly disagree. Whoever is president doesn't matter. With the husband not on the same page, no clue. I'm working on it, trying to open his eyes to things. Slow going, but it's all I can do for now. Well, Tara, TJ, I send you love and support, and I want you guys to know that even if you feel alone, even if you feel like your loved ones, your significant others, your parents, your kids, whatever, don't listen to you. You have a family out here. There are those of us out here who are trying to do the same things. But this is what I want to encourage you guys to do. If you haven't actually tried to, if you're only communicating with other people on YouTube and Discord, and the internet itself, try to talk to the people closest to you. This is what my second book is about, finding freedom in an age of confusion. How do we wake up to these things? And when you do wake up to these things, it's all about recognizing that you're going through a grieving process, that you can be angry because you were lied about all the things going on in the world, many of the things, right? And so you have to go through this grieving process. And some people get stuck in this angry, what I call the Alex Jones fear-based kind of stage. And it can be difficult to get out, but you have to get out of that and recognize that there are solutions and that you're not alone. What if the US dollar got devalued? The US dollar is going to get devalued. It's getting devalued every single day as it loses value every single day as a part of inflation as we head towards hyperinflation. So that's why it's important to invest in alternative currencies. And look, I use cryptocurrency. Not all cryptocurrencies are built the same. You guys need to understand this. There are problems with Bitcoin. There are problems with certain coins like Ripple. The Federal Reserve is probably going to create their own coin. Facebook's going to create their own coin. That doesn't mean they're all equal. Some are actually built decentralized with privacy in mind and things like that. And we can talk about that another day. You guys know I'm supported by Smart Cash. Smart Cash is decentralized. They're all about the community, and they're trying to make crypto very easy to spend, like by creating their own card that doesn't use Visa and MasterCard. So you could ideally one day just go pay crypto to crypto using a card like you're used to right now, but without being dependent on Visa, MasterCard, or the banks. That's a good idea to me. I'm trying to make it as easy for people to opt out of these systems as possible. So the dollars, the state's currencies are going to get devalued. They're going to collapse eventually. I'm not one of these doomsayers who's going to try to say it's this date on the calendar, Shemitah this or Shemitah that. But I am saying that I think it's quite clear that that's going to happen at some point. And let's imagine that it never did happen. There's just been all this doomsaying for 50 years and the dollar never collapses, right? Even if it doesn't happen, by learning to take care of yourself, learning to grow your own food, getting more plugged in with your neighbors, getting more tuned into yourself and your healing and your trauma, developing more skills, having a tight-knit community of people to rely on in a time of emergency, whether that's a weather emergency, dollar collapse, zombie apocalypse, whatever, that's just a better way to live. So you don't have to come from a place of fear like, oh, it's all over, they're coming after us and we're gonna die, I need to get prepared for the worst. Yeah, those things are possibilities, but that's not, it's not, I don't think, the way you should focus on it. That's my take on it, because there are plenty of beautiful things taking place in the world, and it's just a healthier way to live by unplugging from these unsustainable systems. So at the end of the day, these systems are centralized, they're unsustainable, whether we're talking about food centralization, food distribution, whether we're talking about water, we're talking about the electric grid, the power grid, or the government itself. These systems are unsustainable, they are centralized, and they do not represent the values that I think we hold dear, many of us hold dear. So I think it's important for us to recognize that moving away from these systems, opting out Opting out. Research agorism and counter economics. Research agorism and counter economics. One more time. Research agorism and counter economics. Look up our YouTube channel. You're already on it. Look up our playlist and look for those words. Go to the website, search those words, and start digging in. Go down some new rabbit holes. Instead of worrying about the problems, start looking at the solutions and see what you can do about it. All right, guys. I'm going to start wrapping up here. Two things I wanted to talk about. The Finders, really briefly. So you guys, who's seen the Finders documentaries? I put out part 1 and 2, 30 minutes each, and I'm really excited to have that out. I was excited to share that at Anarchapulco, and I'm actually getting ready to release the full final edition, which is 60 minutes long, and it has a different soundtrack. I think it's a little bit more well edited. The audio's better. And if you also noticed on part 2 where we had a little segment where it said, camera overheated, and, I had to kind of use a still frame during my interview with the Finders member, Robert Terrell. Well, we edited that out, and it's looking more polished overall. So I'm really excited to share that with you guys. And my goal is basically to put the documentary on like Vimeo, and it's going to be like $5.99 to download and watch, something like that. So if you guys want to support me, you can watch it for free, of course, on YouTube in part 1 and part 2. But if you want to see the final 60-minute version and help us out, you can get that at Vimeo. I'll post a link on Monday and a video whenever I get that up and out. And it's going to have the transcript and the resources and everything like that for you guys to dive into that rabbit hole. And the other thing, and again, I'll do another video talking about this, I'm going to be selling these mini USB drives. These USB drives that are just going to have like a little Finders logo on it, and it's going to have the full HD version of the film, 60 minutes, part 1 and part 2, an audio version, the full interview with Robert Terrell, an audio interview with another member of the Finders, all my documents, all the newspaper clippings, my timeline of events, just everything that I use to put this together. It's going to be put into the single USB drive, and I'll be selling those. I've already got a list of people who want to do pre-orders, and I'm going to sell them for $10. So just another way for me to support you guys, or for you to support me, and to support the information and to get it out into the hands of the people, because I don't want it to just be sitting on my computer. I want to get this, and I don't want it to just be stuck on YouTube. I want to get this out everywhere into the world so we can expose the Finders, and maybe some of the people involved will speak up and come forward and share some more of the truth. And that's kind of the approach I'm going to take with my documentaries going forward. Is I'm going to produce these documentaries. They will be available online for free on YouTube, but then I'll be selling them like in a USB version. I figure that's cheaper than doing a DVD. I don't even know if people watch DVDs anymore. We're just streaming stuff these days. So if I can just send you a USB drive with lots of data on it, you can watch it, and then you can use it for whatever you want. So if you're interested in that, please keep an eye out in the coming days. And then the last thing I want to talk about, I want to go back to a question from Robert a little bit ago, where he was asking me about my thoughts with the state kind of mandating vaccines and more talking about vaccinations. Some of you may know about there was a hearing just a couple of days ago in where was that, in DC, called the Vaccine Saves Lives: What is Driving Preventable Disease Outbreaks, by the U.S. Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. And basically, if you've been paying attention at all, since the beginning of 2019, nearly every single day there's new articles, new videos, and new just press out there talking about the danger of unvaccinated kids and how horrible it is that this is going on. And it just seems like there's so much propaganda. Look, I'm not here to say that every single vaccine is bad and that vaccines never save lives, all those kind of silly things that people throw at you. But without a doubt, there are questions surrounding vaccinations, and not all of them are safe, and maybe we should question the amount of vaccinations that young kids are getting. But when you start to get to the area where it's not even safe to talk about this, where people call you crazy, of course you get called anti-vaxxer, things like that, then we're getting into some dangerous territory. And the problem with this issue, because typically it's like, hey, look, if you want to get vaccinated, that's fine, but don't force me to get vaccinated. People accept that in most areas. But with vaccinations, this idea of herd immunity and group immunity has come about, where this idea that we have to get a certain amount of the population, say 30 to 40% of the population, vaccinated, otherwise it's going to create, outbreaks, which doesn't really make sense to me, because if kid A is getting vaccinated by their parents and kid B is not getting vaccinated, then what is the point of getting the vaccine if kid A is going to get sick by being around a non-vaccinated kid? Does that make sense? You guys understand? Yeah, there was the propaganda at the Oscars. I mean, it's just been going hard. The World Health Organization has said that one of the top 10 threats against humanity this year is basically anti-vaxxers and people who are questioning vaccine safety. So we're getting to some really, really dangerous territory where this is another reason why I'm considering leaving the United States. And again, I want to posit the question to you guys. Look, if they say that tomorrow there's going to be a smart grid, you got to get an RFID chip or use a national ID card or get facial recognition, retina scanning, face print scanning, whatever. And if you don't do it, you can't have a bank account anymore. You can't have a job anymore. Are you going to submit because you don't know another way? Or are you going to start working right now so you don't have to deal with that, right? Now, the same thing. Let's say tomorrow that the state passes, like, let's say all we have to have is one giant outbreak. Like, let's imagine that an outbreak spread throughout the United States and they were like, oh my God, everybody's breaking out measles or the flu or whatever, and people are dying, whether real or some false flag thing. You better believe that politicians would be racing to introduce a new bill that mandated that everybody must now be vaccinated by the flu vaccine by this date every single year. And it would pass so quickly because people would be freaking out. They would have all this hate on anti-vaxxers or people who questions vaccines. What are you going to do in that situation? Some of you who have kids, think about that. Your kids come home, they got a letter from school, and it says, in order for your kid to attend next week, they must have these vaccinations. And if you refuse to get them vaccinated, we're going to have to visit your home. The state is going to have to send an employee there to ask you all kinds of uncomfortable questions about why your personal beliefs are interfering with your child's health and how you're putting all the rest of the kids in harm's way and in danger and things like this. These are realistic questions that are coming about in the coming months and coming years. What would you do? What would you do? I know some of you guys are unschoolers, homeschoolers, and things like that. But the push, the propaganda, like for example, Facebook saying, oh, we're going to start finding a way to remove anti-vaccine content. Amazon now getting in the way and saying that they're going to remove anti-vaccine documentaries and content. The World Health Organization saying that this is one of the biggest threats. They got that kid who may or may not be real. I don't trust him. He said he turned 18 and he went and got himself vaccinated because his mom was crazy anti-vaxxer. And now they're parading him all around the media. They had him speaking at the Senate hearing and things like that. So, I mean, what are you going to do when these real questions take place? I just want to know, because we need to stop thinking abstractly and realize that these are questions we're going to have to answer very soon if you have kids and if they're in the state school system. And even if they're not, because some of you take your kids to daycare centers, and that's another way they get you. Like, oh, you can't come to this daycare because you don't have the right vaccines. Or if you work in the medical field, I've talked to people who are like, oh, I got to, get this vaccine just because I'm working in the field, and so even if I don't like it or I have questions, it's basically get this or lose my job. I don't know. Nobody in the U.S. is dying of lack of vaccinations. By the stats, young people are dying early from suicides, overdoses, and car accidents, especially men. Are you planning to move out of the USA? Yes, I am. Where would you go? That's still being decided, but I'm open to hearing about lots of ideas. This is only one of many reasons I don't send my kids to public school. What's up, Samantha? Yeah, that's a good idea to keep your kids out of school when you can't afford that and you have the potential to. 18, born when Facebook wasn't a thing, but it's Facebook's fault he didn't get vaccinated, right? If it's in the media, it's societal programming. I agree. We got to be careful what we're putting in our minds. But, I think that's a theme that we got to think about, guys, is we're at that point now. Some of these ideas that we've talked about for years and that we've been seeing in the independent alternative media saying, oh, one day they're going to take our guns. One day they're going to force vaccinations. One day they're going to put a chip in your head. One day they're going to force facial recognition. One day is getting pretty freaking close. And it might just be tomorrow. It might be the day after that. It might be the week after that. Again, I'm not going to predict dates and try to figure that out. All I know is that when I look at the full scope of what's going on in the world, and I read all kinds of data points and articles from the mainstream and the independent and my own thinking and my own analysis, I can see the trend going towards more and more control. That's the trend. That's why I want to be out of the U.S. by 2020. I think around 2020, when the election's coming up, when facial recognition databases are going to go wide in order for you to fly, when 5G is going to start going live, when potentially forced vaccinations, like, I don't think it's a safe place to be in here. I'm not saying it will be that way forever, but I think it's imperative for those of us who want to stay alive in the long term to maybe get out while we can. And if not, I hope those of you who are stay, or maybe I won't even get out, maybe something will happen before I get out, that we have the courage and the strength and the wisdom to step up to the plate and to lead when it's necessary. Because if we don't, then I don't know who's going to come save the day. QAnon's not going to come save the day. The gray aliens are not going to come save the day. The blue avians are not going to come save the day. David Wilcock's not going to save the day. Jeff Berwick's not going to come save the day. Donald Trump's not going to save the day. Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, whoever you want to throw out, nobody's going to save the day. The only people who are going to save the day are each of us coming together as empowered individuals and saying, I'm going to get over my BS. I'm going to get over my little insecurities. I'm going to go talk to my neighbor and see if I can strike up a conversation and get them interested in the things going on in my community and say, hey, can we start a neighborhood watch? Can we start a community garden together? Can I interest you guys in, some fresh food that I got from the community garden I'm volunteered at, or here's some good food that I grew myself. Start building those relationships. And if you can't do it with your exact neighbor and the people on your street or the people even in your neighborhood, then find somebody the neighborhood over. Find somebody in your city. Get as local as possible, because we're going to need each other. Because if we're spread out across Australia, the United States, Central America, Germany, New Zealand, Romania, and the shit hits the fan one way or the other, then guys, we're going to check in with each other on YouTube, and it's going to be pretty crazy. Or, we're going to just come to YouTube and we're not going to like what we see. I don't want to get stuck with my pants, caught with my pants down. I want to be prepared. I want to lay the foundation so that my nieces and nephews and my potential future children or grandchildren or my friends' children and just the kids of tomorrow and the 7 generations and beyond have an option. If we lay the groundwork and we unplug from these systems and opt out and build something better, they are going to come into a world that is much easier for them, as opposed to having these struggles that we have now. We have to think about that. Think about more than yourself and what's in front of you. What will you do when the time comes? All right, guys. I think I'm just about done for the night. I didn't mean to go for an hour and 10 minutes, but, I've been gone for 5 weeks, and I've been needing to just, I guess, get some ranting out and talk to you guys and plug in. I'm going to be back to regular videos now, Monday through Friday, live shows every Friday, sometime in the evening, 7 to 8 p.m. This one was a little bit later, 9:30, but, just whenever, look out for it. But Monday through Friday, we're going to have new videos. I'm open to suggestions on new documentary topics. Jeremy and I are about to start working on a new documentary in the coming weeks, and I'm open to hearing what you have to say. As I said, I'm going to be putting on an event here in Houston, raising awareness about 5G. I'm going to be finishing my book, Counter Economics. I'm going to be working on getting the finders out on Vimeo and in the USB form for anybody who wants to get that. I'm looking to work with people who want to form intentional communities so we can hold a conference call and connect to each other on that. And I've also got another exciting announcement coming up that I'm going to wait to share once everything's finalized. And and like I said, I'm working on music. I mean, there's just all kinds of things going on in my life, and I want to collaborate with you guys. I want to work with you. If you hear something I'm saying and it sounds like something that resonates with you and you want to collaborate with me in some way, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm going to be going through all my emails in the next couple days and responding to everybody who's hit me up over the last month, because it's just been busy. But if you emailed me anytime in the last few weeks, expect an email response in the coming days. And you can reach out to me at DerrickTheConsciousResistance.com or Into the Light at Proton Mail. And yeah, I am going to get some rest. I've just got home Wednesday after traveling quite a bit, and so I had a full day yesterday and just cleaned up the whole house today. It feels nice and clean and just getting relaxed and settled back into home. It's time to take the fire and the inspiration and the opportunities the connections I made while on the road, and bring them home and share them with you guys. And I don't share these things just to hear myself talk. I hope that some of these things you can take inspiration from, and this fire is meant to be shared, and I want you to take it and use it however you need and build in your communities. Please don't depend on anybody, Derrick Broze, anybody else, to do these things for you. My goal is to inspire you to action. If we can all become action-oriented people, we can really see the world change. As I said, people coming to Anarchapulco, to Envision Festival, to all kinds of different events and conferences that are supposed to be transformational or conscious events or anarchist or kind of freedom truth events. If we don't take that potential and that good positive energy and those good vibes of us connecting and do something with it, then it's all for naught. And we should just admit that we're just trying to have a good time and celebrate and party. But if you're truly about changing the world, as I am, then it's time for us to step up to the plate. This is just the beginning of the 3rd month of 2019. You still have this month and 9 more months. You have 10 months to create the change that you want in your life. download the Holistic Self-Assessment from our website. Check out that book. Order it from me if you want, and start working through that and asking yourself which relationships in your life are not in line with your values and principles. Which habits are not in line with your values and principles. Start setting goals. Start working to accomplish these things. I'm working on developing the Holistic Self-Assessment and turning that into an online course. I'll be telling you guys much more about that coming soon. But my point in saying that is it's time for us to get some shit done. It's time for us to step up to the plate and achieve the change that we want. We can't wait around for other people. And with that, I think I'm going to say goodnight, guys. You should look into the Alien Deception, DMT, Joe Rogan's, Alex Jones interview. Yeah, I'll check that out. I've been meaning to see that. You went through a lot of stress in Acapulco. Too much drama. Definitely too much drama. I got a question. Lay it on me. Throw the question out before I say goodnight. I'll have to open a crypto account. Positive and energizing for change. All right. Unless there's any other questions, I think I'm going to go ahead and say goodnight. Sign off for the evening. And talk to you guys on Monday. I'll give you just a second. All right. That's it, guys. I'll see you guys soon. Hope you have a good weekend. Hope you enjoyed this. Please share it. Please follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share our videos with some friends if you want to share our work. And until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.